There is a phenomenon that I have come to know recently. It is almost like the exact opposite of a cult classic. A cult classic, of course, being what is a popular movie, but only with a subset of culture, and they rave about it. The opposite I'm calling a paradoxical classic. People remember it, kind of, and they enjoyed it at a time, and it still subsists in the pop culture in a way, but not fully. That's what brings us here to this topic today. Disney's Aristocats. People like it, sort of. They remember the one song, sure. Duchess the Cat's Dancing directly inspired Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction. And Marie, the girl kitten, still has merchandise from Disney branding in multiple different ways to this day. And yet, most people don't watch it past childhood, and it's kind of a more forgotten Disney animated adventure. Why is that? That's what I want to ask today. So, Kat.
All right. I mean, he answered my first question before I even had the chance to bring it up. So, as far as my pre-movie thoughts go about Aristocats, so I get we do big pop culture stuff, and I feel like a lot of people, maybe again, it's something that just like I know I've heard the Aristocats as a title, but like I don't. Like you said, people don't really talk about it. Is it really a pop culture thing? Why are we watching this? And you kind of answered that.
Well, the interesting thing is that even the name is sort of pop culturally relevant, because there is that one really, really raunchy, dirty joke that just ends with the punchline of the Aristocats. The Aristocrats. See, I just did what I was about to explain. People will go on this diatribe, and that joke the lead up to the punchline can last up to like 3 minutes, and they'll fuck it up because instead of saying aristocrats, they'll say the Aristocats. Damn it! So clearly that means it's a good pun. Second, it means that people are still, at least in some level, subconsciously aware of the movie's existence, and yet people don't bring it up.
And like so, because people don't bring it up. Granted, the whole concept of this podcast, this cat doesn't know diddly squat, and we're trying to bring her up to speed. But really, all I could say I knew about this movie beforehand, that it's just from the title alone, you know, using my 4th grade context clue skills, it's about cats and they're rich.
Which doesn't factor into it nearly as much as you'd think.
Yeah,
essentially the fact that they're being rich is just the inciting incident. And it's one of those, and I think that this is part of why so many people don't really think about it first when it comes to Disney animated movies from this era, is that it doesn't follow the more common narrative tropes. So many movies and so many stories in general follow what is called the hero's journey. It is the story of a person who doesn't necessarily want to be a hero, but is yearning for more, and they get a call to action. More often than not, they initially refuse the call to action, meet a mentor, the mentor usually dies, and at the end of it, they have to go on this journey that changes them, either to face some great evil or get a magic MacGuffin. And by the end of it, they are a hero and have completed their journey, come back changed. This is not that, although I guess it could be loosely translated into it if you really wanted to stretch the definition, because there is an inciting incident, which could be a call to action. There is a journey, but the journey is to get back to the original starting point. And the characters don't really change all that much. They just gain a little bit of worldview, I suppose. It's not so much a narrative as it is a loose scrambling of a narrative to create interesting situations.
Maybe Now the way you explain that, I think that hit the nail on the head. Why it just didn't. Like I'm just gonna say it right now before we even get to the end. Something about this movie just did not click or connect with me, and I think it's because I was trying to find a straightforward plot.
Yes,
and it was not really all that present.
And here's an interesting tidbit. This was originally going to be an episodic TV serial.
Oh.
It was originally pitched to Walt as something to be a part of, one of his shows. I don't know at the time if it was currently Disneyland USA or World of Color or what have you, but it was one of the shows that Walt hosted. And I believe it was even going to start out as being live action with the characters just being in narration, essentially. However, Walt apparently really liked the idea and wanted to make it an animated movie. Essentially, a new cat-centric version of the setup for Lady and the Tramp or 101 Dalmatians, another animal movie. But then he died.
Oh.
And so, that led to the point in Disney corporate history where they had no fucking idea what to do because their one auteur was gone. So they just kept asking, well, what would Walt do? And that's why Disney kind of stagnated and did a lot of stuff that doesn't really have the Disney seal of quality assurance to it that other things do. And why there is a such thing as the Disney Renaissance, which is when people really thought that Disney got their act back together. That being said, people enjoyed this movie.
I mean, and it's not, there's enjoyable, and I think it just comes, and it's just probably just an effect from the disjointed plot. Like, there were scenes that, I enjoyed, like the beginning scene with Madam and, what's-his-face, Charles, dancing when they met up again, the cat's just chilling. I thought that was cute. I liked the scene with all the jazz cats. Obviously, probably the most memorable scene in that movie. And I liked the whole sequence with the geese. Like that, I thought those were very memorable and fun characters. But again, otherwise, I can kind of tell you the general plot, but I wouldn't be able to exactly pinpoint this happened here and then this and this and this. So,
yeah, but. Yeah, it just, it's weird that it came about like this. And like I said, there is still pop culture merit to this movie, but it's almost a sleep pop culture sensation. It's a paradox, hence Paradoxical Classic. Marie, the girl kitten, still has merch. She can still be found as plushes, as toddler, there are toddler clothing with her on it. People use her quote of "a lady does not start fights, but they will finish them."
And I was about to bring that up. That would be the only character. If you were to show me characters from the Aristocats, the only one I would be able to recognize is Marie, just because of that quote going along with a Tumblr gif that I saw a million years ago.
And so there is still relevance. In fact, Marie is even still a walk-around character in Disney parks now and then. Very rarely. And also, Edgar, the villain, will be a character during the holiday seasons when more villain characters are just roaming around.
Interesting.
Yes. And so, again, there is still presence in the current Disney brand that shows them. Hell, in the TV show Disney House of Mouse, it was a running joke that Thomas O'Malley and the Scat Cats were supposed to be a musical guest, but they kept getting chased off or scared away by some loud noise or dogs. They're still around. They're still present. And it's just interesting that the character designs and certain aspects of this movie seem to be, they hold the test of time, but the movie itself really doesn't. Everybody Wants to Be a Cat is still sung. I still hear people humming that. I still, see it come up. If there's a list of Everybody Wants to Be a list of Disney songs, it's usually on there. somewhere in a top 10 of just being a fun song. You know, Thomas O'Malley is played by the same guy who voices Baloo and Little John, again, because Walt Disney liked him, and they were like, well, Disney's dead, but he liked this guy, let's have him voice another thing. You know, that's also why the voice of Winnie the Pooh is the mouse. And
okay.
Like, they were just using all of the stuff that Walt had built and not really building off of it yet. You know, and they would start to be climbing off of it now and then up until the Disney revival, when new teams were finally given something to do, because this was in the era where the 9 Old Men, or Disney's, you know, animation staff that he had personally worked with, were mostly, you know, manning everything, but they were also getting older, starting to retire, or just moving on to other things. Some of them had, you know, left to become of Wedway/Imagineering. But the new blood hadn't really been given all that much to do yet. This was during the time when I believe Don Bluth was still in Disney, and because he was essentially given nothing to do of importance for him to really, you know, dig his teeth into, he would eventually leave and create his own studios and make, you know, the things that would go up against Disney, like Land Before Time and All Dogs Go to Heaven and American Tail. And so it's just interesting that that happened. Like Edgar, the main villain.
I'm glad that you brought him up, because because I'm thinking about characters now. And I think another reason why the movie just didn't stick was Edgar he didn't seem like yeah, he was a pretty, like, he was
an antagonist, but not necessarily a villain.
He didn't have anything that really stuck out to me when you think about your villains. Like,
yeah, like he's too idiotic to be a villain. He's just an antagonist. Like, he's a fully grown man who thinks that cats literally do have 9 lives. He's a moron. But you can't deny that the way he is animated is really entertaining to watch. Like, the way that, you know, he doesn't just, you know, move something. He does it with, like, almost everything is done with a flourish. And that's because, again, it was done by one of the senior animators. Like, so it was just... And there is some Disney, like, attention to detail there, like just absolutely. On IMDb trivia, that scene where all of them are drinking the cream in the beginning of the movie, apparently every bowl has a colored ring that matches which cat is drinking it.
Oh, all the background details are gorgeous. Like, I probably spent a decent chunk of the movie just admiring the backgrounds. They were gorgeous. And
it's in that sort of like almost sketchy Xerox style that almost kind of has like a watercolor coloring to it. And you know, that's because it was like that started around 101 Dalmatians, I believe, because it was easier to do than just redrawing everything while inking it onto cells. Instead, they just Xeroxed the original sketches onto the cells after cleaning them up a bit, which is why in certain things, as you know, after Walt died, that quality assurance kind of tipped off a little bit because they were, you know, lost. In things like Robin Hood and stuff like that, you can see some
I remember
sketch lines.
I was just thinking about that. I remember you, like, when we watched that together, you stopping the movie to point it out.
Yeah, I believe I paused it at one point because through the coloring, you could see that on Robin's head was the little circle and crosshairs that shows, like, all right, this is the middle of the face. This is where the eyes go, like, and all that stuff, and like. It's only there for, you know, like a few fractions of a second, but I notice it because I do that when I draw.
I was going to say, you art boy.
Yeah, like I do that every time I draw because it's just a good way to be like, all right, let's get these proportions started. And something else, here's another example of how Aristocats is still showing up in the pop culture. There's actually a Game Grumps animated that traces animation from Aristocats.
Really?
Yes, it's one that's covering the joke of "You Must Die," like from Zelda CDI.
Okay.
And it's the part where, you know, they're improvising like they haven't seen each other in a long time and they're both in a retirement home. And Danny, I didn't realize this until I rewatched Aristocats, but Danny has animations that's being lifted from the old attorney in Aristocats. Specifically, like when he like lifts up his head and is like, oh, there's music and stuff like this. So, like, again, it's still showing up. And funny enough, like, there's a lot of recycled animation in Aristocats because at the time the lead thought it saved time and money. It did neither. But I'm wondering if now in this new digital age, if the person traced that animation just because he thought it was funny and wanted to reference it himself, or if he was trying to save himself time, or if he's just, you know, an independent animator who's doing it all on his own, probably not for very much money, if any, and he, you know, was crunched for time. It was saving a little bit of time. He didn't have to come up with it himself, and it gave him practice. Like, yeah. So it could have been any of those reasons. You know, any of that stuff. Look at any fan-made intro, like Pokemon Adventures manga has some fan-made intros as if it was an anime, and it uses tracings of different animes and their songs. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say that I've seen the art of the people who are doing it. They can probably draw an anime just fine, but they want to practice doing the complex stuff of the professionals. I'm not gonna grudge them for that, especially when it, you know, they're not making any money off of it. Most of them don't have ads on it.
Yeah, they're all passion projects for practice.
So as long as they're not legitimately trying to trace others' work and take credit for it, you know, because usually they're like, hey, this is based on this, you know. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the same person will even put up a comparison. I'm getting off track. My animator brain is betraying me.
Yeah, the art... Your art boy is showing.
Yes. Oh, no, let me zip up. But back to Aristocats, like I said, you know, like with the old guy, with, you know, Thomas O'Malley, the way that he, like, you know, rolls around and, like, dances and stuff like this. Very intriguing and entertaining animation to watch, at least for me, someone who, you know, likes the idea of that and honestly wishes that there was more hand-drawn animation still today. Like most stuff, even if it is hand-drawn with quotation marks that I'm doing with my hands, because this is clearly a video and not audio, is done in Flash or, you know, Toon Boom and stuff like that. And it's getting better. It's getting more advanced. You know, like even the Disney shows like Gravity Falls and 101 Dalmatians, Amphibia, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, it's able to do more complex stuff, that squash and stretch and all that stuff. But there's still some complex stuff that working with rigs and skeletons can't do. And at that point, the only way to really do it is through hand drawing every cell. I know this because I've done it. It's time consuming, it's frustrating, it's a pain in the ass, but goddamn does it look good when it's done. And that's why, like, that's as soon as I saw that Don Bluth was like, hey, you know that old Dragon Slayer video game I made? What if I just made a whole movie like that? I was like, yes, fund. Like, and that's why I have a poster of The Secret of NIMH signed by him.
Oh, so that's how you got that.
Yeah, thanks, Don.
But I'm just thinking, again, I don't, there's just, because I let you go on your little animator thing because I found that genuinely fascinating, which it's all the background of the movie. Mm-hmm. All that is more interesting than the actual movie itself. It's weird. Because I'm, like, while you're on your tangent, I'm sitting here trying to think of things to talk about, and I'm just like, even more than usual.
It comes off very slice of life. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if they had split this up into, like, animated or even live-action segments of a TV show, you know, like Walt, like the Adventures of Davy Crockett was a show that Walt did. And it was a very popular show. It had a Disney ride for a while, right? Right when Disneyland opened, there were, you know, river canal boats themed off of it, specifically themed off of one episode. And that was a part of Disneyland USA / World of Color. That's just how it was. It was part of that segment because it was a long segment block. You know, it was a whole thing. Like, you would learn lessons, learn about culture, hear about the new movie that was coming up, probably get a little progress update on Disneyland, and then there would be some kind of episode of something. I believe Swiss Family Robinson, which is what also got an attraction, the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, which then eventually became the Tarzan Treehouse in Disneyland. But in Disney World is still the Swiss Robinson Treehouse, at least last time I checked, is from Disneyland USA, at least as far as I remember. And so, like, I feel like it would have worked. It was kind of like a slice of life thing, but with animals. Mm-hmm. And if it was just like, this like little, we got to make it home, we're homeward bound, that'll come up eventually.
Oh boy.
Like, it's almost like the old, I think it was a Canadian show, The Littlest Hobo, like, which was about a dog just going around, but with cats, and they actually have a destination. So I think it would have worked better like that. Mm-hmm. And probably if it had been refined a little bit more, and if Walt had actually been around to maybe focus it a little bit, we probably would have had something here. But they were adrift with no leader.
And again, there were sparks of some stuff that was really cool. You got your Scat Cats. That was, I thought, an interesting concept. I would have liked to see some more misadventures with them, like you said, kind of a slice of life setting. Excuse me, sorry. But now I'm thinking about the geese. Like, that whole segment was really fun. I would have loved more of their shenanigans too.
And that's another thing. Like, it even has things where it's just like, all right, this storyline's done, fade to black.
Yeah,
like that could have been a whole episode.
There were fragments of fun and brilliance in there, but but by the time I was really invested in it, I'm like, oh, now it's gone by.
Yeah, and they don't really come back. Like, it would have been interesting if, like, they came back during the climax and they helped a little bit or something like that. But again, this feels like it's just, this is a slice of life. Let's meet these characters now. British geese. All right, cool.
Dogs.
Yeah, like, the dogs, which were just completely separate. Like, they had nothing to do with the plot, except for the fact that,
almost no relevance.
Yeah, they screwed with the antagonist just because.
And even more relevance, the mouse. And
that's another thing. Like, the mouse has this thing where, like, I'm gonna go find the cats, and then fails, and then that's it.
Like, again, bringing it back to, like, some sort of slice of life thing, that would have been a fun thing, like, as, like, like a B plot. The mouse, the mouse is trying to find them, and he is encountering his own shenaniganery, or just missing them, or stuff like that.
Which
that
eventually,
fun ongoing gag.
Funny enough, that eventually comes, like, that idea of him just being around and just missing the main characters would eventually come back as an idea. I don't know if it had anything to do with this, probably not. But that is an idea that eventually comes back in a Don Bluth movie, American Tail. Like, which is all about mice. So, I don't know. What goes around comes around, I suppose. But yeah, there's just a lot of, like, dropped plots and, like, stuff like that. Now, okay, here's a question for you, because I just read something on the trivia page that I've got open here that made me, mentally scratch my head.
Okay.
Who was the main character?
Duchess? Question mark?
See, I would say that too. It's about her and her family trying to get home. Like, the secondary main characters would be her kids and Thomas O'Malley. I would,
and like, if we were reaching to try to get some sort of actual like narrative, like you were talking before,
like she could have done
the formula of the hero's journey.
Yes,
like. Initially, you could think Duchess is the main character, with O'Malley kind of being the mentor.
Yeah, and the mentor / love interest, I guess.
Yeah.
But funny enough, IMDb trivia, and Ava Gabor voices the side character Duchess.
Yikes!
Who do they think is the main character?
Who is the main character?
I would say Duchess. Also, apparently, Scat Cat appears as an extra in the animated film of Robin Hood. Next time I watch that, I'll have to look out for that. But, like, if they're not the main character, then who is? Like who do they have listed as the main character?
O'Malley wouldn't be because he pops up later.
Yeah. I mean, there are films that should
do that.
Look, first build only, Phil Harris, O'Malley.
Yeah.
I guess according to IMDb, they think Thomas O'Malley is the main character. Just not the point of view character, I guess? I don't know. He does have the most story arc, I suppose.
Yeah, if you were to go back to the hero's journey thing, like he does undergo the most change.
Yeah, because, you know, at the very beginning, he's ready to ditch as soon as he learns that this cat that he thinks is pretty has kids. I'm not ready for a pre-started family, Duchess. Sorry. You know, but then
I don't want to be no stepdaddy.
Yeah. Which that just leads to the line that made both of us laugh when we heard it. Well, we almost had a father. It's just so weird.
Weird and oddly sad, but still funny.
Yeah, it's really weird. Just the delivery of it too, because it's an actual child saying it.
Oh, that's even better now.
And something else that's kind of funny, looking at the cast, I didn't realize this, but the Russian cat in the Scat Cat band, voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft.
Who?
Well, he's a voice actor who is in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Haunted Mansion, Splash Mountain, I believe. He's like a lot of voices in Disneyland. I don't know what else he did in Disney movies, but yeah.
So next time we go to Disneyland, you're gonna be like, and there's his voice here.
Well, he's one of the singing busts.
Oh, okay.
Who sings Grim Grinning Ghost? He's the one who's missing his head, and the head is on the side.
Okay.
Yeah. When the moon climbs high over dead oak trees.
That is, when I think back to Haunted Mansion, I do think back to that part.
Yeah. Well, that's the big finale.
Yeah.
I don't think he was also the ghost host. I don't believe so. Maybe. Have to give that a Google later. But, yeah, so, like, that's the thing. And, you know, Madame does nothing. Like, she discovers that the cats are gone. Somehow the cats being gone makes front page news. Just like the missing puppies made front page news in 101 Dalmatians. Because apparently nothing else was going on in the world.
And, like, again, I had to like kind of go back and see, because at first I'm like, is Edgar's Endgame again? Like, this is me like trying to find the actual typical villain. Is his Endgame trying to get Madame to die from heartbreak? Like,
no, he just wants the inheritance, and the inheritance doesn't go to him until the cats are dead, which they can't spend money because they're cats, so it'd be his anyway. Like, it'd just be in their names. So again, he's dumb. But his whole catalyst is like, I can't wait for them to be dead. They have 9 lives each. I'll be gone by the time they reach their second. Like, he's an idiot. He's a fucking moron. So it's just, he's dumb. That's the whole catalyst of his villainy. He's an idiot. Like, he's making cream with a bunch of sleeping pills in it and almost taste tests it. Like, he's a moron. He leaves his, like, eventually he comes back to get it, but he leaves the sidecar and the basket, like, all the thing. Apparently there's no cops actually looking into this, even though it made front page news. Like, and another thing that's weird is that Madame is said to have been a retired opera singer, never has a song.
Oh, yeah.
She dances. She's not really a character. She's just there.
It's like, oh yeah, the cats live here, and this is the rich lady that takes care of them.
Yeah. Jim Deere and Darling in Lady and the Tramp are more characters.
Yeah.
You know, like, they have more agency in the plot that they're a part of. Especially in the remake, like, where it's like, hey, let's actually have some stuff focused on them because we got actors for them, I guess. Gotta.
But yeah, they're just, again, it just feels like kind of a wasted potential overall.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. But honestly, I think
I think that's how I'm gonna leave it because.
But it's less offensive to me than Pocahontas.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Because like Pocahontas is nothing but missed potential.
Yeah.
At least to me. Again, it's very pretty, but especially because I know a lot more about the background of what Pocahontas was going to be. Mm-hmm. It just no.
And again, maybe not so much wasted potential because there was, I guess, because there. Yeah, I guess that is the definition of wasted potential. But any hoozles.
Yeah.
Like they should have taken it in a different direction because like it takes a lot for me to say I dislike something, and especially after talking this out a little bit more and hearing what you have to say about it, I don't think I can. I can't say I dislike this movie, but I wish they would have taken a different direction with it because I think I would have liked it a lot more if they did something different with it.
Which actually, funny enough, the whole thing about movies changing in pre-production, did you know that Emperor's New Groove was originally going to be a musical epics of like actually serious tone?
What?
Yeah, it was called Kingdom of the Sun, I believe. It was going to be a much more serious take, like, you know, that along the lines of like, you know, Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid and stuff like this, where there's actually some serious scenes, and then eventually they were just like, nah, we're gonna make jokes. And honestly, I feel like that's the reverse Aristocats.
Yeah.
Because like it was something that was originally planned as something else, Aristocats TV show, you know, Emperor's New Groove serious, changed into something else. But the thing is, Disney had gotten their act together by then, and Emperor's New Groove is amazing.
Oh yeah, it worked. It was so good.
Yeah, that's what, like. Honestly, when it comes to Disney movies that are straight up comedies, I actually think Emperor's New Groove is better than Hercules. Oh. Don't get me wrong, Hercules has some amazing set pieces in animation, but Hercules is an idiot. Cusco is also an idiot, but it's part of his character that he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And Hercules, it doesn't really seem like it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It's established early on that Cusco is a freaking moron.
Yeah, like, it also helps that he's a spoiled, rotten teenager. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, yeah, he's an idiot. And then he goes to high school.
Oh my! See that that was my first exposure to it. I didn't see the movie until like years later.
Yeah, I really like Emperor's New School, but it always pissed me off because I'm like, when in the timeline does this take place? Is it before? That doesn't make sense. Krunk is here, and in the movie, Cusco says that Krunk was just recently appointed in his position. It can't be after the movie because by then, Yzma should be a cat, and Krunk is redeemed. So why would he be working with Yzma? Like Cusco already knows the peasant family and is cool with them, but is also like still kind of a dickhead. Like, so clearly, fuck, is this like an alternate universe? Does it take place in the timeline? Where does Krunk's New Groove fit into this? Oh my god! I had the same problem with the Hercules TV show, too.
Oh, that had a TV show?
Yeah, it did. And in that one, it takes place during the training of Phil, but also somehow part of Phil's training is now that there are other people in training going to a high school. And also Hades knows about Hercules' existence as a teenager.
What?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, though, it doesn't offend me nearly as much in the Hercules one, because honestly, the fact that Hades knows about Hercules and is constantly just trying to screw with him works better. Mm-hmm. And second, it had a crossover with the Aladdin TV show that I really, really liked.
I didn't know that had a TV show too.
Aladdin?
No, yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it had a TV show for a long time.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, I believe Return of Jafar, the Aladdin 2, was kind of like a pseudo pilot to the TV show, and then Aladdin 3, Prince of Thieves, is like a pseudo finale to the TV show.
Huh. Neat.
Yeah, just like how Stitch the movie, I believe, is a prequel to the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Leroy and Stitch is a finale to that. Mm. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Neat.
See, this is why I say it's a paradoxical hit, because again, Aristocats being talked about can lead to a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, because now we're talking about Disney movies I actually liked.
Yeah. And again, there's things to like about it, and it still holds up in certain ways. The characters, the main song, you know, like all that stuff. And yet there's so much of it that's just forgotten to time.
Yeah.
I think while watching it, I called it the modern day version of House on Pook Corner, where like the whole point of it is that at the end, Christopher Robin, you know, leaves his toys and fantasies behind to be, you know, to start his journey to adulthood. When I was a kid, I watched Aristocats all the time. Then I stopped. Haven't watched it again since.
Until
this podcast. I remembered it fondly, you know, certain pieces of it. But that's it. I never even thought of going back to it. Other Disney movies I have constantly, like even Oliver and Company, which again is a movie that's kind of a paradoxical hit. People remember it, but they don't. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Also, Edgar got sent in a box to Timbuktu. He's fucking dead.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's dead. If nobody discovered that he was in there, like he didn't cry out for help, and maybe he didn't because he's an idiot, he's dead. He is a dead man. Fucking dead. That guy...
Dead.
Dead. That guy is, like, way dead, which is funny, because that is a way hard...
Death is funny, people.
No, it's funny that he, you know, supposedly gets, you know, suffocated and dies, which is a way more harsh punishment than a way worse villain, Cruella de Vil, who gets in a car crash and then is just like, I guess I lost.
Yeah.
That's it. That's her punishment.
Yeah, and it's
she
so
survives.
Funny. I don't know why I'm thinking about this. Like another movie I kind of want to revisit now, but I'm a little afraid to. Like apparently I loved 101 Dalmatians as a kid. Like, and I'm thinking about memorable villains. I'm thinking about Cruella de Vil because she had a phenomenal like character design, at least in my opinion. Don't give me those eyes, but
No, I'm giving you these eyes because you're saying, "Oh, that's a movie I'd like to revisit someday." This is a show of Kat's memory. We have already watched this.
We had this discussion already. Oh my god.
We watched this back in college.
I don't remember this.
A year or two ago.
Okay, paint me a picture of what this watch looked like.
It was at my new apartment.
Okay.
Like it was at the second apartment I had in Charleston, and you were visiting.
Okay.
I believe it was either during the October stay or the one after that.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, I literally don't remember at all. And I know we watched movies. The only two I remember, I know we watched several movies. The only two that I remember us sitting down to watch were The Shining and part of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
We also watched Halloween. We watched Robin Hood.
Oh yeah.
This is why this podcast
we
is
literally
happening.
We literally just talked about Robin Hood like 15 minutes ago in this episode.
People, this is why this podcast became a thing. She needs to listen to these podcasts herself to be like, oh yeah, I do things.
Look what poor Scott's working with, guys.
Hey Kat, how's the Batman theme go? She left. She's gone. She walked out the door. And thus I win. She's back.
It's raining outside.
It is. It is raining outside, and I knew it. She forgot.
I'm going to my room.
This has been a pretty short episode, but when we're talking about Aristocats, you know, aside from the new coined term Paradoxical Classic, I guess that's kind of what you get.
You know what? And I'm proud that we made it this far because as we were talking and we were at the 15-minute mark, I'm like, good God, how are we going to stretch this out?
Yeah. Everybody Wants to Be a Cat is a great song, though.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Everybody Everybody wants to be a cat. See you later, everybody. Everybody wants to be a cat.
Beautiful way to end things. So, Scott, you're better at the spiel than I am. What do you want to do if you want to support our podcast?
You click the like. The subscribe.
Incredible.
If you're on YouTube. On other things, you leave reviews, preferably 5 stars. And you could rate a 5-star and even just say nonsense gobbledygook. And if it's funny enough, I might read it off in a next podcast and say your username.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There's an incentive. Morty. And just keep listening. Subscribe to the podcast on anything, like add to a watch list or whatever. Watch some of the other videos on our YouTube channel, which, the link will be somewhere. Like, it'll be in the description if this is being listened to on a podcast thing. If you're watching it on YouTube, congratulations. You can just click the little channel button. You made it easy for yourself. Good job.
Noise.
Yeah. And watch those things. We have a Patreon. You can find the links to that on our YouTube channel and probably in the description of the podcast. And yeah, I know it's a bit early to be introducing a Patreon, but you need to understand we're poor as fuck.
And also, all right, my dudes, like, if you support us, you're one of the first.
Yep.
You do. If you don't let Scott dissuade you. Well, let your inner hipster out. Be cool before everybody else.
All these hipsters just trying to be me. The proto hipster. I was a hipster before it was cool.
Also.
Oh, I need a shower.
We have social media, guys. We are at Out of the Ice Pod 1 on Twitter, TBA on any additional social media, because even though I'm only really familiar with the Twitterverse, I might as well spread my wings someday. So maybe by the next episode comes around, you may find me on the Facebooks or the Instagrams. Good God, I have to download Instagram. But Here we are. And
I believe we have a Twitch channel. We don't have anything on it yet because, again, we need money to get the setup.
We're just going to kind of sweep that under the rug until things...
Yeah, but we've got it.
Yeah.
And, if you guys keep supporting us and we're able to make this more and more and more of a main thing, eventually we want to start actually making, streams. We want to start streaming stuff. We're big old nerds when it comes to video games, and Kat crochets like an old woman. So, she could do creative streams. I could do streams about drawing like a cool person. All that stuff. So, Yeah.
Also, and don't forget, we also both have Twitters. You can find those through the Out of the Ice podcast Twitter. I'm at Cat27, and Scott is...
Mutagen Works.
Thank you. Yeah, come talk to us. We're sad and we're very lonely.
And my commissions are open.
Yeah.
So you could help me afford to survive another day in this cruel, cruel world that way, too.
He has such a face right now, guys. All right, I think Scott's going to need some comfort food and maybe a hug or two, so we're going to sign off. So, I'm Kat.
I'm Scott.
And we are Out of the Ice.